Councilmember Krupa,
Here.
Councilmember Peterson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal.
Here.
Mayor Mills.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you, sir. At this time, members of the public may only comment on the closed session items. Please adhere to the following when addressing the council. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes or less. Comments should be directed to the council as a whole and not directed to individual council members. City Clerk, are there any registered speakers? Yes, there is. May I have Judith McPherson to the dais, please? Is the green light on or pressed? Thank you, Kathy.
There you go. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. New electronics for me. Okay, about 1 month ago, there was an email read at this podium by Matthew McPherson. And there's a long history here, but I want to play something on the record today. On November 23rd, 2020, there was an alleged assault and battery upon my adult son, for which the alleged assailant was criminally prosecuted in Riverside Superior Court. At the scene were 2 City of Hemet employees in the dereliction of their duty. One was Code Enforcement Amerigo Giordano, and the other was Hemet Police Officer Nicholas Schroeder. Over a period of 2 years or so, we endeavored to gather information per public records request under the California Public Records Request Act. And finally, recently, one email of Amerigo Giordano that was sent to his supervisor, Lionel Martinez, finally emerged on August 11th, 2021. And at that time, there were 2 active cases in Riverside Superior Court. One was the criminal battery case, and Amerigo Giordano was the one material witness. And the other witness was Nicholas Schroeder. Okay, I want to read to you the response the day after that Supervisor Lionel Martinez sent to Amerigo Giordano. This has just been discovered and produced to me, and thank you for the production of records finally. Thank you, Amerigo, for your narrative of what took place during a routine inspection of a property. After my investigation, interviewing the property owner, Simon Chu, and how the incident took place of a gift being exchanged, you did the right thing and took the proper steps. Mr. Chu did say all he wanted to do is thank you for doing a good job by giving you a gift card for coffee. He said you refused the gift, finished your inspection, and left. You handled the situation in a professional manner, and he didn't mean any misunderstanding by it. Amerigo, you took the right steps by coming immediately to the director and I explaining what had just taken place during your inspection, how you refused, and explained the reason you were not in the position to be receiving such gift. Once again, thank you, Amerigo, for taking the right steps in this type of a situation by coming to your arrangement immediately, by coming to your management immediately. There will be no further investigation or action on this matter. Okay, per penal code in the state of California, offer of money to an individual, even if they don't accept it, is defined as bribery. Amerigo Giordano was a public official. Okay, and it says here that Lionel Martinez said that there would be no further investigation. Was this ever reported to a law enforcement agency? Because Amerigo Giordano was the material witness for Simon Chu in criminal case BAM 2100624. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. At this time, members of the public may only, oh, I said that already. That's why I didn't check that. Okay. Council will now proceed to closed sessions. Thank you for joining us. A report of closed session will occur after the deliberations. Thank you. Hmm. Did you jump? Good evening. I would like to call the October 10th, 2023 regular city council meeting to order. I would like to point out that this meeting is being hosted through live stream on the city's website and by Zoom teleconferencing. I would like to remind council to have their microphones turned on and positioned so the audience can hear you. City Clerk, may we have roll call, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Kendrick.
Here.
Councilmember Krupa.
Here.
Councilmember Peterson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal. Here. Mayor Mills.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you, sir. Today's invocation will be held by Bob Beckett of DP Church, Dr. Pepper, the Dwelling Place Church, and Council Member Carol Kendrick will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Yes, sir.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come together to be with the council. And we'd ask that your grace and your mercy would help them make critical decisions that guide us into the future, particularly in the world that we're living in right now. We thank you for watching over them personally, in their families, in their personal lives, and helping them make the right decisions by our community. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hoorah.
Hoorah. We will now move to the city attorney's report from the closed session. City attorney, can we get a report, please?
Thank you and good evening, Mayor. The city council by consensus gave settlement direction on the item on closed session.
Thank you, sir. We will now move to communications from the public. There is a 3-minute per person time limit for all general public comments on non-public hearing items. All who wish to speak, including council members and staff, need to be recognized by the mayor before speaking. For those that wish to join by Zoom, you will be asked to raise your hand if you would like to speak. Please state your name and item you are commenting on before speaking. We will take public comment for items listed on the agenda. One more thing, when someone comes up to the dais, we would like decorum in this room and let the people speak without interrupting them, please. Deborah Shambler or Shamber.
Thank you for letting us on today. I want to talk about my street again, Cypress Street. A while back, I was here and I asked if you guys could put in a speed bump. And I think that's really important because the park was not made for the amount of people that are going there. People park all the way up my street. I mean, way down far from the park. There's hundreds of people playing soccer, doing all kinds of things. And I think that's wonderful. It doesn't bother me at all. I don't care. I tell people park in front of my house. They, park on my driveway. I don't care. But the problem is the speeding of the cars. Somebody's going to get killed. We already had a little girl get hit across the street from me. And now, a couple weeks ago, I was out watering and enjoying my front yard. And there were some people that came from the park by the basketball, came over and started fighting, like verbally yelling. And then they started fighting and then they started shooting. And at that point, I went in the house. But I still think even in that instance, that speed bumps will help. People, like when they had that and they peeled off and took off, they could get away really fast. And it's dangerous. I mean, there's just cars on both sides of the road, like I said, the park was not made to be having all these hundreds of people. So I plead with you guys again, please put in those speed bumps. And, you know, I love my park. I love this city and I just want it to be as safe as possible. And I think there's a catastrophe, going to happen one day. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Joey House.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joseph Uhouse. I live on the east side of Hemet. Last night at 7:10 p.m., my wife and my 4-month-old baby almost got hit by a car. I ended up confronting that person because they went into a cul-de-sac. And I did not show any hostile intent. I just rolled up on them and said, "Why are you going so fast?" They were an Amazon worker. And she approached me saying, "Get out of my face. I have a gun. I will kill you." And I have my 2-year-old son on the back of a bike on a trailer. And we were fully illuminated with headlights and taillights. And as soon as my wife heard that, she took off running. The video shows her the ground, the sidewalk, and everything else like that. Meanwhile, I said, if you want to, spend the rest of your life in prison over me telling you to slow down, you almost hit my wife. And it was dark outside. And so the funny thing is she said, "I'll fucking run your ass over. I'll kill you right now." So I ended up getting away from this person, hiding up in people's front yards behind trees. My wife's trying to make distance. I had to get closer to my wife. My baby's crying hysterically, and my other son's crying. I finally catch up to my wife. The car's stalking us down the road. She pulls up next to me, and I tried to make more distance. Meanwhile, she turned around and tried to attack my wife. And meanwhile, I told her, "You need to get out of here. We're trying to call the cops. We're calling the cops. Get away from us." And she peels out and takes off. I called 911 3 times. 3 times. Okay, I got my phone 3 times. They said, "We tried calling you 3 times. I got the call list right here. It's unacceptable. I finally got, after an hour and a half, and after the 3rd time I called, the officer or the 911 operator said, I put you back on the list. They tried to contact you." I said, "That's a lie. That's a lie." I said, "This needs to be appropriately handled." I spoke with an officer. He ended up trying to deflate the situation. Deflate it. I don't understand if a vehicular assault, being chased, swerved at, being threatened multiple times with my whole family. Okay. My 2-year-old son last night, all night long, was saying, I'll shoot, because he's hearing what that lady was saying to me. Meanwhile, I did not get any law enforcement presence to my neighborhood. I looked at my cameras. This is a disgrace. It's unacceptable. And I don't know how you guys feel, but the officer says, "I would have just rode away." In the heat of the moment, your wife and kid almost got ran over. I don't understand. I don't understand.
I have a question for you real quick. Don't leave. Joey, did you say you lived on the east side? Are you in the city or the county? One block away. Okay. We'll look into this for you. Are you going to be here all night?
I had to go home to my family.
Okay. Maybe one of the officers can talk to you. The chief's here, the captain's here.
I just want a fair, I don't want it to be deflated. I was assaulted, verbal, racial slurs, the whole 9 yards. And I did not show any hostile intent towards that person.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer Henry.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
My name is Jennifer Henry. And I live down the street from her, a couple of houses. So I want to talk about two things. I'm gonna talk me fast. What she had mentioned earlier about the people fighting, shooting. I was in my window looking at that and I saw the car speeding down the street. So if there was some speed bumps there, they would have been pum, 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 pum. So I think
How?
we could have some speed bumps on the street because besides that, cars from Kirby, they come running down my street real fast all the time. So I just want to say that, yes, we need some speed bumps. We need something or have an officer right there giving a ticket. But the reason I'm also here is because you guys changed the item about the metro that was going to be coming down back in my yard. My yard now is quiet. I would like it to stay quiet, but having a business and metro train coming down, I don't think it's going to be quiet. So therefore, to support us, have a big tall wall or something to keep the homeless people out of it and the noise, because it's going to change how we live there. So when she came to my house telling me about it, I said, I'm here. I'm coming to this place, and then you guys change it. But that's why I'm here talking about, I don't want that to be there, but it's going to be there because you want the money. So help us homeowners put in some kind of a higher brick wall or something. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Tom Lodge. Do we have a Tom Lodge? Harry Larned?
And then, Mayor, I did note on Mr. Learned's speaker card that he wanted to talk about the Kirby property at Sanderson, south of Acacia. I think that means item 14A. And my understanding is that that staff has requested that item be
It's going to be
continued.
delayed till
Yeah,
the
so-
following meeting.
So if there were comments about that, that is a public hearing. It's better to have public hearing comments at the public hearing. My recommendation would be
Come back next.
to come back
Meeting.
next one.
Okay.
I'm sure Mr. Leonard has other things to share with the council though, but just wanted to note that because I didn't see that on the public comment card.
You talking about 14A? That is not going to be, okay. Well, go ahead. Yeah. Why don't you lift the table when you're speaking? Get it up a little. Now there's a button somewhere. Thank you.
Mayor Males, city council members. I'm just looking at that property. I was talking about this to a friend today, and I said, what if they rezoned that area that we have? Because it was zoned there 2006 for industrial. Now, this is many years later, and people now decide they don't want an industrial park there. Why don't you just rezone that go to the planning commission, do whatever you have to do and rezone that for residential, maybe R4, apartment complexes and such. Leave a section frontage for commercial. And then instead of having industrial, you'll have homes in there or apartment complexes. That is a area that there are a lot of homes in that area that would be consistent with the neighborhood. Rezone that. They have other areas that they can put commercial in industrial areas in. There's that place right south of Sanderson and west of Kirby. There's a big big area right there that can be used for industrial parks. It would make sense to put them over there. That's closer to where the main area would be, where the trucks would come in. And they wouldn't be disturbing anybody inside where the residential property is. I don't know, it was just, to me, it would make more sense to do that instead of having to worry about big walls or not taking Whittier all the way through. And this way it would be residential. It just made more sense to me because industrial, if they don't want it there, then that should be rezoned. Just a thought.
Thank you, sir. I think that's the last, no, try this again. Tom Lodge? Okay, he's no longer here. City Clerk, are there any members of the public participating through Zoom that would like to comment on any items?
Thank you, Mayor. Now's the time on the Zoom call. If there's anyone present that would like to speak, please raise your hand. And I do have one raised hand by Ann Smith. You are live with the City Council meeting and you'll have 3 minutes to address your comments.
Thank you very much. Hold on, I'm looking for my notes. Just bear with me. Oh gosh. Sorry, folks. Just hang in there with me. There is definitely, okay, here we go. I want to talk about 9B regarding the security of the pickleball courts. What I'd like to know is the City Council going to want special security to make sure the courts remain usable and don't suffer graffiti or other damage? Or will it be safe for those using it? And the reason I'm bringing that up is because we had an issue of safety and cleanliness and a lot of other things with the skate park. And we decided to use some ARPA money, which won't be here next year, to pay for the security. And I totally understand and agree, but I'm just curious if the City Council has thought about that. I think a pickleball court is a great idea. Adds a little bit of class to an otherwise not very classy kind of a situation. So that was 9B. Regarding 9E, the public safety office specialist, I looked at the pay scale, $64,700 to a high of $82,572. And that seemed kind of high. And I said, you know, I don't know what your plan is. Now, I realize that you only control the city employees. You don't have any control over the unions, the SEIU workers. But how come nobody's, and this is probably not a question you can answer. I'd really like to know why they're not being considered for some kind of pay increase to bring them up to par with everyone else. So that's 9E. Hang in there because I think I got one left and then I'm done. Oh man, just bear with me, folks. Sorry. I was going to talk about 9F, but it's basically the same thing. It seems that everyone seems to be getting a raise, but you know, not the rank and file, and that's kind of a concern. You know, they're hanging on, and they're hanging on because of the pension. That's the only reason that some of them are hanging on, and I think some of you may already know that, but I sure wish you would consider it. And that's it. Thanks a lot. Appreciate all the hard work you guys do, and thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Ann.
There's no other further public comment, Mayor.
Thank you, City Clerk. We will now move on to presentations. Councilmember Kendrick will present the Water Professionals Appreciation. Oh, you're doing fire? Okay. So can we have Battalion Chief Greg Lloyd up, please? We're going to go out of order. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Proclamation for Fire Prevention Week. Whereas the city of Hemet is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our city. And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire. And whereas Home fires killed more than 2,800 people in the United States in 2021, according to the National Fire Prevention Association, and fire departments in the United States responded to 338,000 home fires. And whereas cooking is the leading cause of home fires in the United States, and fire departments responded to more than 166,400 annually between 2016 and 2020. 2 of every 5 home fires started in the kitchen, with 31% of these fires resulting from unattended cooking. And whereas Hemet residents should be sure everyone in the home understands the sounds of the alarms and knows how to respond by planning and practicing a home fire escape plan, and are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas the NFPA announced the theme, Cooking Safety Standard Starts With You, pay attention to fire prevention. First responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries throughout prevention and protection education. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Hemet, along with the mayor, do hereby proclaim the week of October 8th through October 14th as Fire Prevention Week, and urge all citizens of the City of Hemet to heed the critical safety messages and to support the public safety activities of the community's fire and emergency services. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, staff. This week, with Fire Prevention Week, celebrates or helps us to remember the Great Chicago Fire, which destroyed a number of homes, properties, whereas a lot of people lost their lives. This year's focus on cooking safety is very important, and that unattended food, unattended cooking is a major cause of fires. Having fresh batteries in your smoke detector is an important part of alerting you should something happen. Having exit drills in the home are absolutely important, so everybody knows your family what to do when those alarms go off. I'd finally like to extend everybody an invitation. Saturday is our open house, October 14th at 10 a.m. over behind Fire Station 1. We're going to have a lot of educational materials. A lot of people from the city are going to be there as well, and we want to extend that invitation to each and every one of you. Thank you.
Do we have anyone here from the water department?
Oh, okay. Yes, no, Noah. No, Noah's gonna accept this award. Noah's not gonna accept the award. Okay.
I didn't recognize you.
Oh, they're all here. Okay.
How are you, Tim?
Why do I have Noah's name?
Okay, this is a proclamation from the City of Hemet to the Water Professional Appreciation Week. Whereas water is the lifeblood of the City of Hemet, and without safe and reliable water, no community and no sector of the economy, from high tech to manufacturing to agriculture, can thrive or expand. Now more than ever, the water industry is proud of the important role our essential workers play in making sure our communities have safe and reliable drinking water. And thanks to technological advances by highly skilled and trained water professionals and the dedication of thousands of industry professionals in the state, California drinking water and treated wastewater meets some of the most stringent water quality standards in the nation. And whereas the City of Hemet and local water agencies collaborate to meet the needs of the community's water, wastewater, and recycled water requirements. And whereas the Water Professional Appreciation Week is intended to highlight the important role of water industry professionals and local public water agencies in ensuring safe and reliable water, wastewater, and recycled water in California. Whereas the City of Hemet appreciates the care put into the day-to-day operations of our community's most valuable resources. Now, therefore, Joe Males, Mayor of the City of Hemet, along with the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim the week of October 1 through October 9, 2023, as Water Professional Appreciation Week, and urge all of our residents to recognize and appreciate the vital services that are provided by our agencies.
Here you go.
Thank you. My name is Tim Burke. I'm the Water Department Supervisor. I just brought along a couple of guys that work here in the Water Department. Josh Seibel, he's our water production operator. And then Clayton there, Clayton Kitchen, he's a lead water distribution operator. So he oversees the construction crews out in the street, repairing your water system, keeping the water safe to drink, keeping fire with water to put out fires.
See, that's why we came after the fire.
There you go. We do appreciate this acknowledgement and this recommendation. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now we will have a progress report on the city's housing element.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm Monique Alanis Flater, Community Development Director. Tonight, we're pleased to present the Housing Element Progress Report. In January of 2022, the City Council adopted the Housing Element. And since then, we have been working with NCD in updating the revisions required. We have been working with our consulting firm contracted for this project. Dave Barquist with Kimley Horn and Associates is going to present this evening's presentation further.
See if I can do this in one try. Good evening. We wanted to give you a brief summary of the status of the housing element. This has been a long and arduous process, and we say housing elements are a full contact sport these days. And this is a testament to that, but you're making good progress. You're just about right there. So we're happy to report to you. We're working through the final steps to get you to a status of full compliance with state law. And that has many benefits for you as a community. So essentially, why are housing elements updated? It's required by state law to update every 8 years. And it's really your vision and strategy for the accommodation of housing, future growth, and existing housing in your community. All cities and counties in the state have to do that about every 8 years. And it's really looking at your current need that you have in your community and projecting out assumptions of future growth need to accommodate new population and new residents. It establishes a policy program or a schedule of actions over the next 8 years. In this case, 2021 to 2029 is the planning period that you and the staff and the Planning Commission will follow to implement your overall housing objectives. Unique with the housing element, it has to be certified by the state. Essentially, what that means is the state of California Department of Housing and Community Development reviews that for full compliance with statutory requirements, which is there are many new laws and regulations and requirements. They basically look at the housing element and make an assessment that it substantially complies with state law. And that's what that term certification means. So what are goals and policies and programs? That's the core element of this housing element. The core component of this housing element really is that direction setting for your next 8 years. The overall program is organized by 5 basic components. I'll paraphrase these is the attainment of quality housing that satisfies all socioeconomic components of your community. So the whole spectrum of your community. Facilitate the provision, improvement in affordable housing. That's availability of that. Provide adequate sites of housing, so future growth need to accommodate that growth in sites and opportunities, and preservation of your existing housing, your existing neighborhoods within your community. And finally, the preservation of affordable housing opportunities. So affordable housing today, continuing those options and opportunities for your folks in the future. Right here, you have what we call the SCAG's Regional Housing Needs Assessment, or more affectionately, RHNA. Essentially, what you see there on the bottom is that total 6,046 units, 6,466 units. Essentially, what that means is over the next 8 years, the city of Hemet should provide the opportunity to accommodate that estimated growth need over the next 8 years. What you see above that number is the breakdown by income category. And that is based on a percentage of the median family income for the county in this case. And you can see the numbers here. I'll start from the bottom, above moderate, roughly 3,700 units. Moderate, which is roughly 1,200 units. Low income, which is 732. The very low income, which is a combination of extremely low and very low, is roughly 812. It's broken down by that because the assumption of the state says 50% of that lower income need should be accommodated and opportunities for persons with extremely low incomes. And in that case, it's people that are making 30% or less of the county median. You can see all the other categories from above moderate to moderate. That's essentially market rate units that you would see if you open up your Sunday paper and new homes that are being built. The ones above that, very low, low, and extremely low, generally need some level of assistance to bring it to market. Affordable housing has subsidies and other things to bring that affordability number affordable to those income categories. So you're obligated by the state to accommodate this growth need over the next 8 years. So HCD, we've gone through a process of working with the state, reviewing it for compliance with statutory provisions and on all the required elements. In December of 2021, we submitted a response to that, or a draft housing element. After work with the community, we got comments back after a 90-day review period. We addressed some of those comments. We had another letter from that with additional changes and recommendations, and we've gone through 3 of those iterations up to the point of April of this year, where we got a letter. The city has done a very diligent job of addressing those issues and working with the state. We've had 2 recent meetings with the state to verify the direction, the intent, and the content of those revisions to comply with state law. And we're confident that we're just about right there. If there's wood, I'll knock on it. So that requires this, before we send it to the state, we have to have a 7-day review period by for the public to review that. So once that's complete, it's in the process now. It's available for anybody in the audience or listening tonight on the city's website that you can review and provide comments. Once that's done, it's sent to the state, and they have up to 60 days. We will make a request on your behalf to reduce that timeline because we think we've addressed it most effectively. So that's the intent that we'll do. And that's imminent within the next few days that we can submit that draft to the state. So what are some of the requested changes and revisions that the state has asked us for? One of the new requirements of the 6th cycle is affirmatively furthering fair housing. Try to say that 3 times real fast. And essentially what that means is it looks at the entirety of opportunity in your community for housing and has the ability to reduce discrimination or difficulty in access to housing opportunity within your community. And so there's quite a bit of work, 60, 100 pages worth of analysis that goes with that. Therefore, there's a lot of details that the state is looking for to address those most effectively. So a lot of work had gone into that. And then looking at the opportunities of sites, on the sites that you have within your current zoning and the capacity that the land you have today, and then proving that to the state to say that's a realistic assumption that we have for the future. That's why we use the term realistic capacity. And the other parts are more procedural, policy-related things to increase opportunities for lower income households, for example, provide a variety of housing types, affordability levels, product type, if you will, to accommodate a whole host or a whole variety of needs within your community. Persons with physical and developmental disabilities, the opportunities for them as well. And then the overall permitting and processing process that you have within the community to streamline that, to look for any inefficiencies that may create unfair issues or opportunities for housing. And so that's in a nutshell. The details of all that are in the letters that were provided. It's in the staff report. So looking at the programs, updating the sites analysis in very specific needs of looking at the sites analysis. The good news is you don't have to do any rezones as a component of this. That's a unique position that you as a community have. Encouragement and incentivizing of affordable housing on properties of greater than 10 acres. So these are real subdivision type of developments where there's some additional opportunities to incorporate through incentives, affordable housing. Looking at land use controls and making amendments to do that to reduce the hoops, if you will, or make it easier for folks to get entitlements for that meet your objectives of housing in the community. And more specifically, on all the goals and policies, the state wants to know the who, what, when, where, why, how, and how much. And so essentially saying, here's when we plan to do it, and here's the metrics that we'll use to evaluate it over time. That's effective as you as management of the city's goals and policies and programs, is that you have a means to review its effectiveness on a year-over-year basis through the planning period. So the next steps in the process is submittal to the state is imminent within the next few days. I think that's a fair assumption. And then it will go through the review process. They do have a statutory 60-day maximum that they can use. We will request that to be reduced. We have been working proactively with the state, so there shouldn't be any surprises that we see moving forward. So on your behalf, we'll ask for that. That would mean around the December timeframe, we would get that letter of substantial compliance from the state. And then moving on from that would be the implementation process. Keep in mind that you as a council had previously adopted the housing element, so it is official policy, and that will continue as this, and we'll move on to that implementation. So you're about 60 days out or so. And if there's any changes within that, I'm sure staff and the city manager will report that to you as a group. But that concludes the presentation, and staff and your consultants are available for any questions. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Being a 6-cycle housing element and AFFH survivor, I can sympathize. I just had a couple questions. When did the 7-day public review period start? Just for my records.
Actually, we posted the housing element draft on the city's website on September 25th, I believe.
So we're already past the 7 days.
We're past the 7
Okay.
days.
Okay. And then I had a question with the slides. So it was April 22 and then a resubmit or a letter in April 23. So can you explain why it took a year?
Yes, and then so we did have to go through the revisions, and there were a few things that we need to address staffing wise with Kimley Horn. We had to amend the contract, and there was some staffing issues and so we had to work through that process, which took a little bit of time to get those revisions. There were substantial changes that we needed to make sure that we were addressing.
Okay. And you know this question. So I know that the housing element has a certain deadline and we're past that. So can you explain if there are any, well, can you tell me what the deadline was to have the housing element certified? And if there are any penalties or if we're losing out on any grant funding because we're not certified yet?
Yes, so the housing element was due to SCAG for the sixth cycle by October 15th of 2021. All housing elements were to be found in compliance with state law by that date, plus 120-day grace period. If found in compliance by that date, cities have 3 years to complete subsequent rezones if they meet that deadline. If not, rezones must be completed within 1 year. In this case, we do not have any rezones that apply to the current housing element. The city, is aware it's not technically fully in compliance with HCD. They're providing letters stating that this until we receive a letter from the state, it's not currently not in full compliance. But the city has been making diligent efforts to complete compliance, and we believe substantial compliance during this cycle in the next 60 days. In terms of consequences, consequences of noncompliance could result in penalties such as the requirement to update our housing element every 4 years versus the every 8 years, as well as being disqualified for grant submittals due to state-funded loan and grant programs that require certified housing elements.
Thank you. I know several cities are not in compliance. Many, yes, I'm a survivor, so I'm certified, but I just kind of wanted that for the public's information. I did read through it. I think it's great. I'm concerned about, the extra work on staff, so we'll have to look at that as we implement and how we're able to accommodate all of those things. And then I did have, I think I asked the question about the urban water management plan, so we have an updated one. But I don't want to stop the certification process. We need to get this done as soon as possible. So thank you. That's all the questions I had.
Yes. You know how I love the housing element and RENA. And since the city has challenged RENA numbers the last 3 cycles, we gained on 2 of them and lost on 1. So I guess we have a good batting average so far. But this one has been rough. And I appreciate all the work that everybody has put into it. And I know being at SCAG and attending the RENA meetings there, that this one has really ripped the heart of a lot of cities who don't necessarily have the ability, the wherewithal, or even common sense. There's no way that some of these housing numbers make sense to anybody. But a few of these things in here in our to-do list have dates certain. And most of them, I think, are clerical, general plan amendments and just different things and informational things that we need to put out to the public. But through this, since there's dates certain on some of these, has the state come back and said, if you don't do this, we're going to slap your hands or anything like that? Or is this just a general thing that we really need to do these things? And yes, we're going to get them done.
Yes, that's a great question. As part of the housing element, that also involves annual reporting. So they'll be looking at how we're complying with it if we're meeting those deadlines, and we may have to provide clarification as to why. And at that time, we'll be able to address staffing resources, limited resources. But it would be part of the annual progress report, and we would just identify which tasks that we have completed and what their status is.
Okay. The statistics in this entire thing and in the update are really interesting. I don't agree with some of them, and others it's like, come on, do some more thinking on that logically in the real world, and then tell us where we need to go. But everybody knows I disagree with RENA. So that is where it is. But just
let us, I mean, we're also the housing authority and maybe we can come up with some creative things with getting grants for Valley Restart to accommodate some of these numbers, especially in the lower range. So just remember, we're here and we're here to help. So good job. And yeah, submit and see if the state will say yes on this one. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, Monique. Next, we will move on to receive and file. Are there any questions from the city council on these two items? If not, we will receive and file both 13A and 13B.
I had questions, but staff answered them today, so I have no comments.
Okay. Anyone else? Malcolm? Nope. And we'll go ahead and receive and file 13A A and 13B. Move to public hearing. Staff recommends to continue this public hearing, item 14A, and renotice the public hearing, updating the staff report and hearing notice to include additional information for this project location on Kirby Street and approximately 700 feet south of West Acacia Avenue. This information will be updated in the staff report and scheduled for the next regular meeting on October 24th, 2023. Can I get a motion to continue this item to the next meeting on October 24th, 2023, and direct staff to notice the public hearing on October 24th, 2023?
So moved.
Second? Okay. City Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Council, please cast your votes. I have a motion by Councilmember Krupa, second by Councilmember Kendrick. That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to consent calendar. All consent calendar items will be acted upon simultaneously unless requested by an individual council member for separate consideration. Are there any members of the council that would like to pull any consent item for separate consideration?
15J.
B?
J.
J. Anyone else?
I'd like to pull 15E and 15H.
E and H.
E as in Edward, H.
Anyone else?
Mayor, I'd like to request that we pull 15A.
15A. So I have A, J, E, and H. Any others? I would like to pull 15B. Okay, so we're good? Good? Good. Jackie? Carol? You good? Okay, so we're gonna pull 15A, 15B, 15J, 15E, and 15H. Is that correct? Where am I? Can I have a motion to approve all the other items and a second, please?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
City Clerk?
Council, please cast your votes. I have a motion by Councilmember Kendrick, second by Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal. That's to approve the consent calendar with the removal of items A, B, E, H, and J for separate consideration, and that motion passes 5-0. Starting with item A.
15A.
So, Mayor and Council, I apologize for not noticing this earlier, but the minutes indicate that the council appropriated an additional $200,000 for the storefront vandalism relief program. The number is $150,000 on top of the original 50 that was included in the budget. So I want to make sure that we accurately reflect that.
Okay, thank you. And 15B, I believe, was me.
Mayor, we need to do a roll call for item
Oh,
15A.
I'm sorry. Yeah, can we
Or
get a
motion.
roll call on 15A, please? Or a motion and a second? We already proved it.
I'll make a motion. I'll second it.
Council, please cast your votes. And I have a motion by Councilmember Kendrick, second by Councilmember Peterson. That motion passes 5-0 to approve the minutes as amended.
Okay.
Item 15B.
15B, I guess Noah needs to come up on, I'm looking at the physical impact here and I'm looking, I just didn't understand some of these terms that we have. On the construction contract, it said 246,000 under physical impact, page 3 of 200.
Yes.
Okay, and the contingency that we have, that's just a norm, right, for every construction
There's always
job.
things that usually come up that we need to be able to cover if it does come up.
And what's the construction management and inspection? Why is that a $12,000 fee? Is that something on the city's end or
So
construction?
that'll be somebody that I would hire to oversee the management, check certified payroll, oversee the construction. We do inspections in-house, but that would be also include materials testing, which would be checking compaction before the concrete's placed, and then collecting cylinders of the concrete for testing to make sure it meets specification.
We don't have an employee that does that. We hire out.
We do.
Are we going to ever get someone in-house or that does that?
For
or-
materials testing, I think it's always best that it's a third party. I don't
Please
think
don't,
most people
don't talk over our speaker. No.
Most cities do use a third party for
They do,
materials
that's
testing.
standard then. Okay, I just wasn't sure about that. Also on the, we go down to page, I guess 6 of 200, where it has in the boxes CS Legacy Construction Inc. with a $472,000 price. Is that correct, or should that be the other company? I'm not sure what that value is right there and the company name, why it would be there.
Should be Cotter Construction. Yeah, I don't know. You're on page 6.
I'm on, well, 7, I believe, 7, page 7. Up on the top, it says CS Legacy Construction. Huh? I can't.
So, Mayor, I can answer that. The whereas clauses of the resolution restate what the bids of the different construction companies were. So if you scroll up to page 6,
Okay.
you will see that is part of a table for all of.
Oh,
all
okay,
bids.
so it's just an
It just-
extension.
Yeah, I just went on to the
Okay.
next page.
Okay, got you. All right. I thought it was the beginning of a page there. All right, well, that's it then. Thank you, sir. Can I have a motion and a second on 15B, please?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Council, please cast your votes. I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal, second by Councilmember Peterson. That motion passes 5-0.
Okay, let's move on to 15J.
Item 15E.
Or I'm sorry, did I miss E? You're right, 15E, my error.
Okay, I just had a couple questions. I'll wait for Norma. Can you tell me what cities were analyzed when you looked at this position?
Sure. So we compared it to Alhambra, Colton, Indio, Monterey Park, Murrieta, Redlands, Rialto, Beaumont, Menifee, and Temecula.
So I'm used to seeing them in kind of the Inland Empire, Riverside, and San Bernardino County. Why did we go out to some of these other jurisdictions?
There are certain cities that are specified in the MOUs that we will use as comparable cities.
And then my last question, is this a position that could be covered under Measure H?
It can.
Okay. That's all I had.
Thank you.
So I'll make a motion. Second.
Council, please cast your votes. I have a motion by Councilmember Kendrick, second by Councilmember Krupa. That motion passes 5-0.
Okay, moving to 15H.
Okay. Sorry, Chief, this is not you. So I had a couple questions when I was reading the staff report. So what I noticed is that there were 5 increases within 7 months and 2 within 6 days. And it looks like some of the schedules came back to council and some didn't. So I was hoping that you might be able to explain what was going on during this period.
Sure. So to start for the council, good evening, Tori Roberts, Administrative Services Director. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. To address your question, there's actually a series of events that were happening at the city at this time. And so part of that was the city manager, the former city manager no longer was employed with the city. There was an interim appointment to a city manager of the police chief. And then in the midst of all of this, there was an administrative oversight. So contract negotiations took place with the police chief in his acting CM role. There were a series of changes that in the midst of annual budget, annual compensation adjustments for lower, I had dinner, I promise, lower level staff that had resulted in some adjustments. Then there were some compaction issues that were addressed. But the bottom line, if we add all of this up, these are clerical adjustments that actually just have to be furnished to CalPERS, which is what this is. And these just did not happen in the midst of that leadership turmoil that was taking place at the city.
So this is completely abnormal and we wouldn't see anything like this in the future.
I would certainly hope not.
I hope not too.
I have one question.
Certainly, Mayor.
Pertaining to this also, I just want to make sure it's clear that when our chief retires in December, that we don't have to start at this rate. We can go down to a reasonable rate for our new chief, correct?
The compensation for the next police chief is probably going to be principally negotiated between the next police chief and the city manager.
Okay.
I can comment on that also. We're now looking at salaries and developing some comparable salaries to make sure that we have updated information. And then ultimately you'll approve a contract with the next chief. So you have control over the final salary.
So that means we can lower your salary at that point, since it'll be, okay. All right.
I'm doubting that the new data will show that the police chief is at the 400 range. But we'll see.
Okay. Go Rio, get me out of trouble.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Council, please cast your votes. I have a motion by Councilmember Kendrick, second by Councilmember Krupa. That motion passes 5-0.
And now 15J.
Finally.
Finally. Thank you.
Are we ready?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I agree with most of this. I just have one concern, and that would be on page 48, item C. It says authority to enforce article. The enforcement official is authorized to administer and enforce this article. The enforcement official may adopt supplemental regulations or policies to implement, interpret this article. I think that's way too broad and gives too much authority to a person probably out in the field to make a decision on their own. And I would like to see a little more oversight on that paragraph.
So
It's 48, page 48C, line 6. The city manager and I talked about this, and he said that he would be willing to take a look at these things, and I think that's a very important check that we need in the future to make sure everything's on the up and up.
So, Councilmember Peterson and I discussed, with respect to the second sentence there, the enforcement official may adopt supplemental regulations or policies to implement and interpret this article. So it would be my recommendation, based on your comments, that that I understand that the direction of the council is that the enforcement official ultimately reports to me through the departments, and that any supplemental regulations or policies would be required to be run by me for my review and approval before we move forward on that front, and consistent with this language.
And just to echo the city manager's sentiment, and I'm looking at, I know I put the previous version in there. I'm looking at page 67, which was the most updated version. That has the definition of the enforcement official. It says enforcement official means the city manager, the building official, chief of police, the fire chief, or their respective designees. So it's either the city manager or somebody that the city manager has appointed and supervises. So I believe it's perfectly within the city manager's authority to inform each of those subordinate officers that they are not to issue regulations without his review and approval. And that would be consistent with best practices in local government. So I think that can be addressed by the city manager.
Yes, I agree with that. It's just that the way it was written, it just sounded too much authority for one person, and I didn't really like that.
Yes, when we get to making the motion, I need to pull the first ordinance that refers to the Infrastructure Commission so I can vote no. I didn't know we're there.
I suspected that might be the case. So the language does inform the council that you may vote on all three simultaneously or record separate votes. So perhaps it could be a vote to approve item J with the exception of the ordinance regarding the Infrastructure Commission. You can record a vote on essentially the remaining two, and then you could do a separate vote on the ordinance relating to the Infrastructure Commission. Councilmember.
And if there's no other conversation, I will make a motion to approve the last two ordinances, the building regulations and the maintenance, security, and rehab of abandoned or vacant buildings. Make a motion to approve those two.
Second.
Council, please cast your votes. I have a motion by Councilmember Krupa, second by Mayor Pro Tem Lilienthal. That motion passes to approve the last two ordinances. Staff recommendation, 5-0.
No.
And then council, we would need a motion and a second to approve the ordinance related to the Infrastructure Commission and the Planning Commission, if you wanted that one to go through second reading and adoption as well.
Yes. Go ahead, somebody.
I'll make a motion to approve the Infrastructure Commission going to the Planning Commission as written.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Peterson, second by Councilmember Kendrick. That motion passes 4-1. Councilmember Krupa voting no.
And council, I did want to apologize. I was attempting to be efficient by throwing all the second readings on one. And very late in that process, I realized there may be a need to have a split vote. So be more cognizant of that in the future. Thank you for indulging me.
Now we'll move to discussion items 16A.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'm going to begin the presentation. This is going to be a tandem presentation between myself and Monique. Tonight, we're pleased to bring you a recommendation for a trash enclosure pilot program. We have a short slide deck that we'll walk through, and so we can proceed to the next slide. And because my glasses are in my car, I'll be reading my computer here instead of the slide there. So, of course, this particular item tonight is called for in our action items, which we will be reviewing the progress on in our next agenda item. The strategic plan integration is that the city has a goal to enhance the visual appearance of the community to make it attractive and reduce blight. And the program that we're introducing to you tonight is consistent with this and part of our work plan for this year. Next slide, please. So this will be 2 slides ahead. There we go. So in the budget that's adopted for the current year, we have an appropriation of $500,000. We have an appropriation of $450,000 and a pledge from CR&R, our waste and recycling hauler, to fund a trash enclosure pilot program. So a total of $500,000. And with the cost estimate that we expect for these enclosures, we believe we will be able to fund approximately 20 trash enclosures in the current fiscal year. Next slide. So I want to walk a little bit through the project eligibility. This is really the application process, and we've designed a program based on the city engineer's estimate that it will cost approximately $20,000 to construct a typical trash enclosure. I have heard from one property owner who believes that number is closer to $30,000, but I will let you know that the city of Indio has a very similar program, and they're using the $20,000 figure for a similar grant program. The project eligibility as designed would be that these projects must be located along a commercial corridor within the city of Hemet. Priority would be granted to proposed projects along main commercial corridors, including Florida, Stetson, State, San Jacinto. And to encourage participation from high priority areas, these commercial areas, the initial application period is recommended to be open for 30 days. That number can be adjusted. So if 30 is a little short, we can add a little more time. And essentially, any applications that are received in that initial application period, we would like to prioritize those for funding initially by city staff, but ultimately in consultation with the mayor and the mayor pro tem. After that point in time, it's designed to be first come, first serve. We imagine there could be a large number of potentially interested property owners, and so we would appreciate the involvement of a political lens on the review of these applications. As I mentioned, the grant awards would be it would be a reimbursement grant, so the work would be done by the individual and then reimbursed by the city. As noted in the staff report, we would require the applicant to provide at least 3 bids from a California licensed contractor, and the reimbursement amount would be based on the lowest responsible bid of those 3, but we would not compel them to work with that specific contractor if they didn't feel comfortable. It would be flexible for them to work with any contractor, a licensed contractor, but they would only be able to be reimbursed up to that lowest bid number. They would be required to use the city's specifications. There may be situations where it would require, based on the existing conditions, some alternative design. We're recommending that be approved by the community development director. And it's also recommended that the council consider waiving the application and processing fees. We estimate that to be $1,173 per enclosure. So if we were funding 20 of these projects, that would account to amount to about $23,000, a little over $23,000 of potential revenue, potential fee revenue to the city. Next slide. These are the procedural steps. First, the application would be submitted to the Community Development Department. I note that 30-day grant application period that we discussed a moment ago. The applicant would be required to find 3 written quotes after a review by city staff. If they were selected, if it was an eligible project, we would ask them to complete a pilot program agreement, a written agreement with the city. We would then issue a building permit, followed by inspections after the project moves forward. And then after a successful inspection, we would process reimbursement for the project. Next slide. And now I'm going to turn it over to Monique.
Hey. Good evening. Okay, so as part of this effort, there are proposed code amendments involved. The first is in certain circumstances where their conversion or removal of parking may be required or necessary to comply with the city standards. So as part of this effort, the trash enclosures would be in compliance with the city standard double enclosure R500B. And it provides for both refuse and recyclable material storage. The code amendment would allow the community development director to approve the conversion or removal of parking space with justification. And as part of the staff report, a draft ordinance was provided as reference. In this case, the justification would be that to be able to provide refuse and recyclable material storage and collection, it would necessitate the conversion or removal of parking. And there is a second component to this proposal. Through the trash enclosure pilot program, this is phase 1. But in an effort to launch the Safe and Clean Streets initiative, phase 2 would involve the requirement that all commercial and industrial uses and that all existing commercial and industrial development comply with the city's modern refuse requirements within 2 years of a code amendment. If desired by the council, a draft ordinance would be brought back to council for consideration. The pilot program is considered exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, Section 15061B3. And it only applies to projects that have the potential for causing a significant impact on the environment. With that, it is respectfully recommended that the City Council approve the trash enclosure pilot program, as well as direct staff or direct the city manager to amend the zoning code to provide for adequate space and refuse of recyclable material storage and collection, to allow the conversion or removal of required parking spaces when necessary, as well as direct the city manager to prepare a code amendment for compliance of the city's modern refuse requirements within 2 years of a code amendment. This concludes our presentation. Be happy to answer questions.
Anyone?
Yes, I think this is an excellent program, but I do have some questions. When you're talking about the parking spaces that may need to be eliminated, is that to rebuild existing trash enclosures that aren't big enough because of all of the stuff that comes down from Sacramento?
Yes, there are many pre-1990 types of buildings that have a single container space for the existing enclosure. Some of the existing enclosures don't include a roof structure. They just have walls on both sides.
Right.
So based on the unique characteristics of a particular parcel, there may be an opportunity to preserve one of the walls and just move the second wall. It may potentially encroach on an existing parking stall. So this provides the flexibility for us to work with an existing wall or an existing structure that could be enlarged. And alternatively, they can remove what they have today, follow the specs for the city's typical design, and proceed that way as well. But we do anticipate there could be certain locations that it may be necessary to take a parking space in order to accomplish the end goal.
Okay. And then the design, it would be one standard design for all trash enclosures, correct?
We have an existing design, and that's what's included in the packet tonight.
Okay.
And Monique, do you want to elaborate further on that?
Yes, so as part of the application, as long as they comply with the standard detail, they could augment the exterior materials of the structure. So if they need to, apply an exterior, a stucco coating to be consistent architecturally with the shopping center or the commercial center, they can do that.
Okay. So when you were coming up with the ideas of that the business could get estimates from 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, did you consider maybe if the city contracted with 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 local, and that they had to be local contractors to do this, and then find the bid that they all agree on and everybody pays the same price?
It's an option. I mean, there's a process where we could go through an RFP process, seek proposals, have city designated contractors. However, I think there's a potential risk that based on the characteristics of the existing site, it may be a site that has what I described earlier, where there's an existing enclosure and it may be more affordable for them, or the constraints of the parcel mean that working with the existing location is preferable, but it might require one of these adjusted but compliant trash enclosures. So there wouldn't, the bids that we receive for the standard wouldn't necessarily apply to those, it wouldn't apply to those unique situations, and we would be back to where we are today. The other advantage of the approach that we have designated here, recommended here, is that it puts that responsibility on the applicant to do that work, freeing up staff time.
Okay. Can we somehow urge them to use local?
We can certainly encourage them, and I suspect that this is going to be a bit of a, little stimulus program for local contractors, because they're going to be more responsive to customers in the Hemet area. And I'm expecting that the money is going to stay in the valley.
That would really be good. That, I think that would be a win-win all the way around to, keep it here.
I was going to say, council member, in terms of, having the city sort of as the middleman, it seems like a good idea at first until something goes wrong. I've had that issue come up on similar programs. I think some cities have successfully informed the contracting community that this program is going live, and they've used that to prepare bids and connect with the grant applicants. So you do get locals heavily involved in it without necessarily the city having to enter into a contractual relationship with that party.
And we can spread the word too.
Right, and we have business license data on all the contractors, and so we can certainly take the time to send a note out to them indicating that this program will be beginning soon, and along with the timeline when we're ready to open for business.
One of the things you also mentioned, I believe, was that to be able to probably use parts of existing. What if a business wants to move the location of their trash enclosure?
We have the flexibility to look at their site and decide, work with them, with our customer, to decide what's the preferable location. And I think there may be some creative solutions needed on certain parcels.
I know 2 of them right now that would really love to have their enclosures moved to a more convenient location.
Right.
Anyone
That's
else?
all I have.
Yes. So just looking at the PowerPoint, it looks like we'll be able to fund 25 trash enclosures, not 20. To echo Councilmember Krupa's comment about parking, I get concerned about losing parking, but I understand the need for this. I think that should be looked at kind of on a case by case basis. And typically you see these type of enclosures next to landscaping. I hate to lose landscaping, but I think that, like I said, on a one-on-one basis, we really kind of analyze what's going to be the best way to accommodate. Like I said, I like parking and landscaping, so I would struggle. One of the other things in the staff report that I think that we should highlight is these trash enclosures help us with water quality. So I just think that we need to highlight that as well. It's not just coming into compliance, but it's also helping with other issues with water quality and criminal activities and loitering. So I think those should all be highlighted. On page 1212, it indicates that the community development director would be the representative. And so I would just ask that the Public Works and whoever is overseeing our recycling and trash requirements that also be part of that process and reviewing. And for the waiver of the permit fees, so we talked about the potential generation of revenue. And so one of my questions to the council is, in that 20,000, could those fees be included in there? And I think that's all I had. Oh, I do have another question. For centers, so when the businesses are coming in, and sometimes you have centers where, that trash enclosure may not be part of their property. I just want to ensure that we're making sure that we have the property owner's authorization. Just in my past, actually, in this city and previous cities, that becomes very problematic. So I just want to make sure that when we're looking at those, sometimes the business owner is not the property owner. So just to highlight that we need to really pay attention to that.
That's helpful feedback. And to the point of regarding the water quality, today we actually had a meeting with the Flood Control Water District and Water Conservation District to talk about the next round of the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System (NPDES) permit, and the guidance that was provided to us is that this program would be helpful in helping the city meet its next permit requirement, which is going to begin. They're going to call it year 23. Probably won't start until early 2024. But the discussion was so interesting and important that we've invited them to come to a near-term council meeting to talk more about that.
Anyone else?
Did you guys take into consideration like the whole graffiti thing? Like, because like the example that was in, someone could spray so through like environmentally, like the criminal design thing, did we take that into account?
Invisible walls.
I did want to, I did think about mentioning the fact that at the last meeting, we brought you the vandalism relief program. And so one solution for that is the program that we're anticipating deploying applications on this next Monday, but perhaps Monique can speak to design elements there. And I know that our customers also have an opportunity to coat the exterior with certain products that will will make it easier to clean it up.
Like, can they put plants around it
Absolutely.
if there's room to kind of deter?
Yes, we would encourage that if it's available, the option is available.
There is a spray coating you can put on the stucco too that the paint washes off.
It's the anti-graffiti coating. It's
Yeah,
typically
it's well worth it.
required on most planning projects for block walls. So for this program, I think that'd be a great requirement.
Councilmember Peterson? The only comment I have is, let's not make it too hard to get this $20,000 grant. Let's try to streamline it where they're not waiting for 6 months trying to get a enclosure built. Maybe we can create 25 packets with all the paperwork that's necessary and have them ready where we don't have to look for them at the last minute. Just hand them a packet and it's done. I think that's it.
Is there any council feedback on the proposed zoning amendments? Just want to make sure that there's, that the motion would include potentially moving forward on bringing a subsequent ordinance to you that would require and mandate this program. I do think it will help us recruit potential volunteers that want to participate in the program.
Maybe we can have the anti-graffiti part of it, the coding as part of the requirement.
We'll definitely add that to our checklist. But in terms of mandatory, requiring every building that, every parcel that has has commercial trash and recycling to be, they would be required to install this within 2 years of the ordinance adoption. So the grant program helps accelerate the compliance with that code section. And we would imagine, because we've designed this as a 2-year program, we would come back with some form of an appropriation after reviewing how the program went this year. So for example, if the bids were coming in the $25,000 range, that might be an example of how we might adjust the program next year when we evaluate it after year 1. I just want to make sure that we're clear that part of the recommended motion is to bring back an ordinance that would require these to be done by all of the property owners with these bins on property.
If the funds run out, will that put a hardship on some of those businesses?
I think, this is a good opportunity for us to assess the enthusiasm for the program. We think there will be more enthusiasm should it be married with a mandatory requirement in a couple of years. And we will share with you, if we run out before the end of the 12 months, we will share with you that information. If we run out in the first 3 months, you'll receive an email with a high priority asterisk on it. So I anticipate we'll be sharing with you exactly what's happening with the program.
I'd like to get the first 25 forms so I can distribute them.
This is exactly why the mayor and the mayor pro tem will be helpful.
To echo Malcolm's concern, I had that thought too, because I think in here, is there like a certain amount of trash they have to produce to be mandated for this? I think I saw that in there somewhere. Is that right? Because like the little mom and pop shops, they don't want to have a big enclosure. So if they want to be part of the program, can they get a smaller enclosure?
That's a great question. So we would need to look at that. Typically, the commercial is going to need a double enclosure, and it's also going to be based off of their use, their proposed site. So I would rely upon our Public Works division to assist in assessing the need for the refuse. And if the council would like, we could also include adjusted to be flexible. We do have other enclosure, similar enclosure requirements that may not require the double. But right now, this is intended to ensure that we have compliant trash enclosures throughout the commercial corridors.
I think this is a great start. And then that's something that I think we can look at in the future, because it would be great for every business, but I don't want to be mandated for somebody that can't afford it if they're just, little corner store or something.
So I think that we can certainly work on drafting an ordinance that pushes the implementation of this citywide. I think one of the things that, the council can look at as part of that ordinance is some kind of hardship waiver or a certain quantity. Maybe you can have a longer implementation time for smaller businesses, but Generally, you're providing the carrots, you want to provide the sticks as well, if you want this to be implemented citywide in a reasonable amount of time. And I think if the business owners know that it's going to be mandatory in a certain amount of time, I think, like the city manager said, that will increase enthusiasm for the grant program.
You guys okay with 2 years? You guys okay with 2 years?
All right, well, can we get a motion and a second?
Move staff recommendation.
Second.
City Clerk?
I have a motion by Councilmember Krupa, second by Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal. Council, please cast your votes. That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, thank you. Move on to 16B.
So Mayor, we're going to put a large spreadsheet up on the screen, and I've distributed copies of this to you. So you have the large format 11 by 17. So this will be a little hard to read, but we can zoom in, I think, from time to time on topics. But this is the first quarter update for what we're calling our City of Hemet Strategic Plan action items for the current year. So as you recall, on June 2nd, the council held a workshop at the library where we identified tasks that were of interest and we prioritized those. 84 items landed on our list. And tonight we're bringing you forward in a transparent and accountable way.
Uh-oh, he's sniffing Malcolm. What do you got?
I threw it.
You can interrupt anytime.
We would never know. Sorry about that.
Continue, city manager.
Well, that was a nice surprise. So a couple comments. When we put this together, and I'll have some general comments, but the intent was to help organize the work ahead for the year. And these are tasks that our goal is to finish these by June 30th, 2024, so full fiscal year. I've had similar tracking spreadsheets over the last 5 years with 2 cities. And I'll tell you that the work done in the first quarter here is the most impressive of those agencies. There's often a capacity challenge, and there's a capacity challenge here as well. But there are some of the items that we'll see tonight. The updates that we're providing you are in the far right column under status or comments. And there will be some where the box is empty, like you see in this 5th, 6th row down there. That's the reference to wrought iron security fencing. Some of these we have to pace ourselves. And so often that work lands on a couple of departments, think planning and think public works in particular. And so we are prioritizing the items that are moving forward. So as I mentioned on the prior report, tonight we were bringing you the trash enclosure program. The meeting before, we brought you the storefront vandalism relief program. In the near term, we're going to be bringing you an item related to the street sweeping. And so know that we're sequencing these. But tonight is an opportunity to share with you the update for each of these items. Some of these are complete today, and they're noted in column F, the second to the right column. We'll see a lot more of those after the second quarter, at the second quarter update. Many of these are very close to finishing and being implemented. So
I found it easy to simply work page by page as we walk through. And so what I'd like to do is have you, if you have questions about any of the items or want to ask a question or clarify something or provide some feedback, I want to recommend that we take this page by page. So right now on page 1, we have quality of life and beautification items 1 through 9. Each of these, except for that wrought iron security fencing requirement, has some form of an update or status, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have on any of these items.
I have to concur with you, City Manager. The level of items that have been completed is impressive. Just in my career, I haven't seen quite this much work, so I want to thank you and staff.
Thank you. I will tell you that we're on item number 3 on the skate park. We anticipate that we're talking about potentially adjusting that to November 18th. That's a Saturday. Want to make sure we check availability before we adjust the date, but we were previously thinking the 17th, which is a Friday. But if there's any feedback on the 18th.
18th would be better because kids are out of school.
That works for me.
Right. Okay. So we'll work on adjusting that to the 18th.
I have one question on number 8. In the far right column, it says that 1275 have been painted in response to C-Click fix requests. So that's not the total. Is that just other people, like citizens, were saying, hey, I need a red curb?
Or they're saying that my red curb is faded and it needs to be repainted. So what we were anticipating when we first started this item was to develop a strategy to complete at least 5,000 linear feet of curbs, but city initiated, not in response to C-Click fix. So this is a good example of one where we're still in motion in getting organized in order to deploy. And frankly, some of the getting organized may align with the community cleanup that we're planning in the spring. So when we map out where we think we need some additional red curbs or cleanup of the red curbs, I should say, we can program that as a project for a community volunteer on the day of service that we have a call of action within our community. So some of these are going to align with others.
I was interested in item 4 here. My understanding is that we had the contract where they picked up, where we can have this scheduled pickup for 4 times a year. And I looked in the warrant register and it looked like we were getting charged for it. So what is it? Or is it in the contract? It's not in the contract?
So what's in the contract is each resident has an opportunity to receive a bulky item pickup at their house twice a year. What the city has decided to do is to supplement that with 4 bulky item pickups, and we've held those at the library, as you know. That's an option for us. It's an option for us to fund that process. It could be rolled into rates. So that's another option for us, is rather than the city fund that, the cost of augmenting the 2 services that are available to any resident through the year could be those 4 extra events could be integrated into the rate structure. It probably wouldn't be that much money. I mean, I would expect it to be under $1 a month, maybe under 50 cents a month, if it was spread among all of the residents in the town, in the city.
So that would take away from the residents pickup.
We would want to negotiate with CR&R and discuss a potential contract amendment. So I think one option would be to consider adjusting the pickup at their house, but it's often pretty convenient for people that don't have the means of lifting something heavy and taking it to the library, for example. So one option is to augment the number of pickups at home, or to design something similar and move away from the existing business. But I'm finding that
that a lot of people are participating. We're picking up a lot of tonnage through that
Oh, yeah,
event.
definitely. And I like it. I just thought it was within our contract, and I guess I was wrong on that, so that's fine.
It could have been negotiated into the contract. It's something that is typically included by a hauler.
Anyone else?
Okay, so we'll move to the next page. Have under quality of life and beautification, items 10 through 16, and then we transition to economic opportunity. I think one comment I have here is with respect to some of these initiatives, we're also involved in augmenting the staff. So in a couple of cases here, there was a prior reference when the first version of this that you saw indicated that Brenda Chavez in my office was going to serve in an acting capacity until a communications staff member was hired. And now we have that person in Alan Reyes to help us with communication efforts. And so some of the items, and he just started about 6 weeks ago. So while we have him busy, part of the next steps will begin to deploy items related to communications. And that includes the youth engagement activities that are noted in line 11. And with respect to the item under economic opportunity, and you'll see this on most of those items on the next page, we're in the final process of interviews right now. And so we anticipate bringing on someone relatively soon to help advance initiatives on that front. And happy to answer questions on the second page, which is described as page 4 of 12 because we pulled it off of the report. So if you look at the left column in there, it's page 4.
How's the code compliance going?
So on number 12,
Number 12.
This update discusses 46 businesses in the process of moving down the corridor. I think of this as even more integrated than that. So it's an integration of C-Click Fix and trying to work on optimizing what's happening there. That was the code update that we brought you last meeting was intended to help, raise awareness of what the volume of work is on that front. Talk to you a little bit about C-Click Fix, but there's also proactive work that we're doing by essentially working ourselves from east to west. And today we've visited 46 businesses.
Okay. And so is there movement? Is there businesses now being worked on that should have been worked on for years and hadn't been? I mean, are we seeing progress?
I don't have the details on what has come from some of these are intended to be random checks where we pop in without an appointment. We knock on the door. And so I can bring you information on that. I think this is also a good example of one of the areas where we have an opportunity to, I think, improve the work that we're doing is the work with the liaisons, the council liaisons. There are several of these items where we're getting to a point where we need to have meetings with council members who are liaisons. And we haven't had a lot of those. This is a good example of one where we have 2 council members who are liaisons to an item. And it's my responsibility to work with our staff to encourage that those meetings are happening and that you're integrated into and providing feedback on some of the thinking that we have. So I think when we pair your involvement with some of the staff work that is the baseline work, we're going to find that by working together, we're going to have a better product at the end of the day. And this is a good example of one that will benefit from your involvement.
In him roll his eyes right now, so I'm just wondering.
Maybe he wants to participate. let the record reflect, I did not roll my eyes. But I think there are some other items on here that relate to code compliance and the progress that's being made in different fronts on that. So you'll see those come up on following pages, Mayor.
Okay.
Okay, moving to the next page. This is the continuation of the economic development. A number of these are essentially on hold, but I think half the plan, essentially this, the idea of developing an economic development strategy. I think it's at least half built in terms of concepts today. We have a number of ideas that we know we are going to recommend integrating into the plan. We also want to tap the talents of the individual that we bring on board to round out the series of at least sort of year 1, year 2 type initiatives to deploy. And there are some easy lift opportunities. So for example, item 5, halfway down the page on the top, this is something that we're going to integrate into the biweekly city update so that we are aligning the developments that are being presented to the community development department and making sure that our community through this newsletter is aware of those. So that's an easy win in the near term. In terms of community engagement, the first item here, the Chalk Art Festival, we have now termed this Chalktoberfest. This is a Chalktoberfest Art Festival that's scheduled for October 28th at the library. This will happen from noon to 5 p.m. And at 5 p.m., we will transition to Trunk or Treat around the corner. And I'm pleased to let you know that we're also enlarging this to include a street fair in partnership with the host of the farmers market. And so that street fair will run during the entire duration of our programming. So we anticipate a lot of community involvement and energy in the downtown with the Chalk Art Festival. We are off to a good start with item number 2 here, the visiting local communities and organizations. I do think that there's probably some opportunity for innovation here where we may want to reach a broader audience and host one of these at the library relatively soon before the end of the year, and perhaps record that and then make that available to the community on the website so that anyone can drop in and we can advertise that in our biweekly updates. So and there's some other innovative communication strategies that we're going to be deploying on that front as well to make sure that the community understands the work that's being done at the city. Happy to answer any questions you have on this page.
Number 4.
4 on the top or 4 on the bottom?
Bottom.
Bottom.
How are you going to go about implementing that? I mean, it's telegraph submitted this for crime prevention, business community. The 2.5 million is going to be a part of that also.
Right. So when this was conceptualized in June, we weren't anticipating a $2.5 million grant award. So we were informed by our granting partner, the company that helps us with grant submittals and writing, that this program was a very difficult competitive program. The grant application is quite complex. I know that Captain Brock was involved deeply in the development of that. It's been a heroic effort on the part of the police department to put this together, and they put a lot of thought into this program. It's extremely complementary to the work that we're going to be doing with respect to the retail, storefront retail vandalism relief program and the other efforts that the police department has conceptualized. It's going to help us on the cameras as well. So this is just a tremendous win for the city of Hemet. once we find a viral video to add to our Instagram page, I'm sure we'll climb those numbers up to 50,000, just like the police department. Also. Any other questions on this page? Okay, the next page is a continuation of the community involvement, community engagement. There are a couple of these that are, again, they're being paced, but I do want to draw your attention to the legislative platform, item number 7 at the top of the page. This is something that's in a development now, and we anticipate working with the mayor and the mayor pro tem here shortly. Maybe even by the end of this week, we'll have a draft, and upon your review, we would bring that to the full council for review. It'll be a comprehensive document and allow us to engage on legislative issues a bit more proactively and responsively. Any questions on this page?
I'm interested in 9. I'm not sure what hotspot policing is.
I don't know if the chief would like to comment on this.
Is that where you have hotspots
I'll-
and you just
I'll-
concentrate on?
I'll add a little, flavor before he arrives, but we do sometimes target certain, locations and focus on certain types of crime or deterrence. And I'll invite the chief to augment that.
Hotspot police, we're looking at analytics and, crimes that occur in one area. We could pull out those analytics and focus on those areas at certain times and days of the week. So Tuesdays, we could say this is an example, Sanderson, Florida, we get a lot of vehicle thefts between 2 and 4, and we see it as a continual pattern, so we can address those issues. Hotspot focusing on those issues that during certain times that show a lot of data with vehicle theft or any other crime. So we can focus during certain times. That way you're distributing your resources accordingly to where the crime's occurring.
Will we take a reactive position and then make it a proactive?
No, we're already proactive because we have all the data in our CAD system, so we could focus on that. This is all part of the retail theft grant that we're trying to do, and also what you approved with our recruitment and signing bonus.
Yeah.
So bringing those people in and moving forward with this grant, we're gonna really focus on those areas on our main corridor, which is part of this.
Great, that sounds good. How's the drone going? I haven't heard anything about the drone lately. The drone
program is going very well. In
Good.
fact, our drone team did a presentation to all the chiefs and sheriffs of both counties, San Bernardino and Riverside, last week at an executive conference. We're the only ones that are actually doing the drone first responder program in both counties. So it's
they're working in our city?
very impressive. Yeah. So it's doing well.
Okay, good.
And it's listed in one of the objectives. So it's going to reduce our response times that you'll notice our next fiscal year as we explain those analytics as well.
Thank you.
Mayor, I just had a question on back to that retail theft grant. So it does say on that it was the acceptance of the grant was scheduled for tonight, but it's not.
It was on the agenda, right?
Yeah, it was on the
On the
consent
consent
calendar. I think it was, yeah, and you approved it.
Thank you for
Yes.
approving.
It was on a.
Okay, maybe.
It was written so well, there was no questions. That's why we brought Angel in here.
I know. You're distracted.
I do want to compliment you on that staff report. It was excellent.
Well, that was my team, I think getting everybody's eyes on it. So I appreciate all their hard work that they've done on this grant. And we're very fortunate because there's a lot of cities and that I've spoke to other chiefs that then weren't able to obtain that grant. So, and we got 2.5 million. There's no match. And as you see, if you look at the grant, we covered all the necessary points and objectives with overtime, with the positions and everything else, so we could be successful it's exciting. So a lot of things are coming together as we move forward with the Safe and Clean Streets Initiative and the strategic plan, plus all the council support with the hiring bonus. So it's looking good.
Good. Great. Good job. Good job.
Oh yeah, I want to see some success. There's so many things that we've been working on for the past 3 years that, I'll tell you, it's we want to see the success, and it's starting to move at greater speeds now. I mean, it's always been a slow process here in Hammett, and I think everybody's all the different departments, and they're all focused on the same, moving forward the same way, and it's happening. It's happening.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
This is something I want to make a comment on item number 8, the ombudsman. This is a good example that applies to a couple of other initiatives. As of today, we don't have our property tax revenue numbers from the county yet. So we can't tell you whether our estimate was right on, a little conservative, a little too optimistic. And we don't have our July sales tax data, right? Okay, we have partial data, but with sales tax, the state has changed the way that they remit sales tax to us, and the first 2 months are typically an estimate, and there's a true up after month 3. So we truly won't have a great read on available resources until about December, January, a little after, until that third quarter or the third month of sales tax, first quarter, is complete. And again, even when it's complete, it only represents 1/4 of the entire city's, revenue. So some of these initiatives like the ombudsman, I think there are other activities that are occurring with the homeless and cleanup ad hoc committee that I think are potentially going to align with the ombudsman concept. And as that conversation matures, and as we understand the revenue availability, and whether the numbers are producing as we anticipate, or hopefully even exceeding our budget estimates, it will provide more clarity on our ability to deploy certain ideas like the ombudsman position. And if we have some other approach to how to fund that, obviously we would consider those as well. But you'll see that come up in a couple of other locations a little bit later.
Thank you. On this number 10, on the C-Click Fix.
Yes.
So who determines what goes on there on C-Click Fix as a drop down for the drop down menu?
It hasn't been adjusted since July 1. So these are categories that we have been using for a while. And the idea here is to adjust one of the reporting items to aggressive solicitation. I don't believe that's been added yet, but that can
Who
be.
adds it? They do or we do?
We do. We can tell them, and we can adjust whatever those categories are.
And who do you have doing that?
I'm going to have to check and get back to you.
Okay.
But we would work with IT essentially.
IT, okay. That's a long time coming. Aggressive solicitation. Yeah.
We have a few more comments on the next page. This is noted as page 7 of 12. With the CalVIP grant, on the grant report that was included tonight, there was a reference to this item. What we learned in doing more due diligence on this grant is that the match was more than double the original number, to the tune of about $675,000 that we did not budget for. This was a train the trainer type of program. And we've invested a lot of time in preparing a grant application with the help of someone. And then that person that prepared it was potentially going to be the program administrator and be the trainer. This is one that we're recommending walking away from. And I've left the letter on my desk. I haven't signed a letter that says we'll walk away yet, but it's our recommendation that due to the cost of the match, that that we pass on this particular grant. So I want to bring that to your attention. With respect to item number 5 here, we have started to deploy monthly business walks with the mayor, Councilmember Peterson, police chief, the Chamber of Commerce executive director, sometimes their president, and myself. I think we've learned a lot in some of the visits that we've made, and it's really helpful to kind of be out there on the ground with some of our businesses and understand some of their needs and receive their feedback. We are anticipating developing a quarterly business check-in via Zoom type of call in partnership with the chamber as well. So we haven't fully developed this and set a schedule yet, but I anticipate that this will be something that we'll be able to deploy pretty easily. It's literally setting a date, getting invitations out, and developing an agenda for those types of meetings. So look forward to implementing that soon as well. At the bottom of the page, I do want to draw your attention to, under organizational effectiveness, to number 4, implementing a new Hemet police patrol schedule and staffing. We have a plan to change staffing on January 8th, 2024. This is something that is in sync with the incentive program, the lateral program that you recently deployed. I know we already had 3 applications. We may have more now, 6. I checked just a couple of days ago, it was at 3. Today is at 6. So this is great news. We want and need those people to be on board, and we want them to start so we can deploy an adjusted schedule as early as January 8th. So that will be a bit dependent on our ability to bring people on board. It may need to be pushed out a little bit. And I already touched on item number 5 here with respect to the economic development manager. We have a lot of my items under organizational effectiveness. So this next page is items 6 through 16. I don't have any specific comments on this. A lot of IT items that are in motion. And we're happy to answer any questions you have on this.
I do have one comment on this, and it really doesn't have anything to do with organizational effectiveness, except that while we're talking about IT and things like that, can we get some better microphones in here so we don't pop? Tonight has been atrocious.
In fact, I was talking about that today with someone preparing for this meeting. Okay, seeing no questions, we'll proceed to the next page. We're still under organizational effectiveness. And we run through number 26 here.
I have a question on 21.
Yes.
The employee survey.
Yes.
What types of questions are you looking to put on that form, that survey?
There's really there's some typical questions that you'll see in an employee survey. There's some templates that we can pay a consultant $50,000 to do this study. Good news is I have a copy of all their questions. We're gonna work with our employee relations team and I'm gonna work in partnership with them to develop a questionnaire. What we also want to do is protect the anonymity of our employees so that they have an ability and feel comfortable participating in that. So we do need to, there are a few questions that we need to answer with respect to that. And I anticipate that we'll have something, within about 3 months, because there's just the design and deployment of that there's some process involved in that.
On item 20, I'm really happy to see that on there. I'm going to go look at the RFP later this week, but
What
I-
number was that?
number 20, it's the
20.
citywide classification and compensation study. Because I think it's long overdue having a comprehensive one. I know that we have a problem with attracting talent, retaining talent. And so I think this is going to go a long way in helping to resolve a lot of problems that we have with that. And then also our reliance on consultants, and it'll improve our customer service. So I'm very excited about that.
One note on that particular item, when those bids come in, we're going to really need to fast track the work on this. There's a lot of work. And we do want to begin to sit down with our employee groups as soon as possible in preparation for continuation, new MOUs that move forward from July 1, 2024. So having this data, accurate data compiled as quickly as possible is going to be very important. It's going to be one of the key questions that we look at when we're looking at vendors, their ability and capacity to work quickly for us.
I completely agree.
22.
So we did have a meeting with Civic Plus, and we're anticipating, and we anticipate this to be something that will take the full year before we fully implement, but we have started that process.
Okay. So we're looking at the middle of next year then.
Somewhere near the end of this current fiscal year. Yeah.
How many employees are we short in the library? And are there any vacancies?
Well, the good news is we have a library manager here. She can either signal to me or help me at the microphone. One vacancy. We have I think a recent part-time person.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem, for asking such an awesome question. We currently have our literacy coordinator, part-time position. Her last day was Friday. So we have begun the recruitment process to fill her place. But in the meantime, I am learning a lot about literacy, and the program will continue. We also have a part-time library page position that we need to get started getting that process filled. So actually there are two.
How many employees do you need for it to be open 7 days?
7 days? Oh, pitter patter.
5 days.
5 days. Okay. We need at least 2 higher level librarians, a part-time clerk, a library assistant, and a full-time library associate.
And a director?
A director could be handy too.
Can I just say something here, some historical knowledge? When the library was in the Covell building, which is now fire, they had 24 employees. We moved to a larger, 3 times larger building. We still had 20. We automated. We went down to 18. Then we went down to 12. Then we got hit with all sorts of things. And you have
8.5.
8.5 people. Yeah. We need more people in the library to open more days for more people, because you went over how many people this last month?
Oh, over 7,000 have come in to visit the library this last month.
7,000 people visited the library this last month.
But do we have, so there's vacancies, that means it's budgeted already, we just don't have the people.
Yes, literacy is budgeted for. I'll be bringing a grant to you next meeting to fill that. And then, yes, our part-time page position is budgeted. Nothing else is budgeted for.
Should I say it? Mid-year budget will be coming up soon.
Thank you. I
Mid-year
thought
budget,
it.
mid-year budget will be coming in early 2024. This is a good example of an item where we need data on the revenue and what is happening trend wise with our important revenues. And I think, this is a really, I really like this work plan because so many of the pieces of it align with each other. And I think one of the important areas of focus is economic development and seizing opportunities to incentivize business to invest in Hemet. And I'm excited about the ideas that are going to come out of that effort. And it all aligns to growing revenue, which will ultimately help us deliver additional or enhanced services.
I don't know if this is weird, but you got this Skillshare. I know it's something that you could do, like you could pay for it yourself, but if you have a library card, you can use it through. Have you ever thought about letting the businesses know, like the owners,
This
so
is
they're-
brand new to us. This is provided to us by the state library. And in the last month, so we're still learning so that we can, yes, get out and promote that, not only to businesses, but to schools as well.
Okay, the final section here is the Safe and
Thank you.
Safe and Clean Streets Initiative. We'll start with the safe items. There are 10 of those, and then we'll move into clean, which has 11. So turning to the next page, we have items 1 through 7 on the safe items. I do want to comment on a couple of these. Row number 1, the Real-Time Crime Center. That's an active project. The retail grant is also going to help us hire personnel. That's a really, this is an exciting area because we know that this program is already working for us and it's not even fully implemented. Item number 4, the flock cameras, those have been purchased and we're in the process of installation. Those have been the existing 40 cameras have been very helpful in the recent couple of months at helping to solve some crimes. The chief mentioned and talked about the drone program. That's actually one of our completed items. So we have implemented that. There'll be further phases of implementation as the regulatory environment changes on that. It will make it a little easier, but I know that these response times, I believe, are just under 3 minutes now, which is fantastic. And adding to the safety of people in the community and the safety of our officers. The city attorney, the police chief, and I visited the district attorney's office a few weeks ago to talk about approaches on number 6 here, consideration of establishing a city prosecutor pilot program. And the city attorney is currently establishing the duties for this work, and we have a couple of ideas related to that. So more on that relatively soon. Also pleased to let you know that the police department distributed 602 trespass letters to every business. That was a combination of in-person and mail delivery. We're now developing a map with our new GIS person to help our officers and help us identify which businesses have not yet responded and to track those. This is going to be work that happens every 12 months because these only last for 12 months. There's a lot of work on the front end, but we want to understand which businesses don't have current letters on file with us because it really does help us. So the current work on this front is follow up with the businesses that have not yet responded. Happy to answer any other questions you have.
Number 6, when is that going to take place?
So as the city manager said, our first step on this one was actually meeting with the district attorney's office, finding out exactly what the contours of the program that they were willing to assist on. And at this point, based on that feedback, we're essentially developing the program to bring forward to the city council at a future date. I think that like so many of these other programs, I think there'll be a budget impact to having that enhanced level of service. And so it's going to be the kind of conversation where we want to be able to give the city council a good idea of what are the duties that the city is going to be, what work is the city going to be getting and what's the cost of that going to be? Soon.
No grants available for this?
I would say not for this specifically, but we can certainly look at tying it into the retail theft prevention program and some other opportunities the city has. And we can, of course, see if there's anything out there. We can work with the city's grant consultant.
My understanding, it was going to be implemented in October. Now it's whenever. So.
Understood. I think we're working hard on developing the process, and we'll be bringing it forward.
All right. Moving on to the next page, still following on safe items, transitioning into clean items. Just a couple notes on this page. Row 9 near the top, the police department actually established in this monthly community police engagement focus group in June, and meetings have been held each month, so that we're considering this complete, but it's going to happen through the rest of the fiscal year, and the feedback that the police department receives is very helpful. On number 10, the meeting that we held with the district attorney's office resulted in discussion of a conceptual piece of legislation where cities that have some form of a diversion program established in the past, until some rules changed where judges now have control over decisions related to diversion. Judges used to follow the prosecutor's lead, we've learned, and essentially assign someone to diversion. Our concept is, if a city has its own diversion program or opportunities for diversion, let's say that means picking up trash somewhere in town. Our concept is this is something that could be a concept that would be bipartisan in nature and received well by both sides of the political aisle. The concept would be legislation that would, a judge would be required to, if a city had a diversion program, first, if the crime occurred in the city of Hemet, they would be required to ask the city if it had its own diversion program, and then send that person to Hemet for accountability, essentially. We think this could be interesting to other cities. We haven't had an opportunity to reach out to legislators yet and further develop the idea. But this is something that we could easily deploy some form of a diversion program, and I think the city's had one in the past. But this is an example of a piece of legislation that we could work with state legislators on and fellow city partners and work with a legislator to introduce. So just an example of kind of the aftermath and the ideas that come from some of these meetings. On moving into the clean items, we do have still a gap under number 1. We have 6 days covered, working with the fire department right now to work on some creative approaches to how to cover Sundays, and we'll be bringing you more feedback on that. And the first collaborative project did not take place in the year 20,299 or 20,239, just so we're clear. Tonight on number 2 here, you set in motion the trash enclosure pilot program, so thank you for your leadership on that. More to come with respect to the annual community service day, but we're grateful to have Alan in our office to begin to work on getting that organized. We also want to learn the lessons and partner with the recent community cleanup that happened with a lot of support from the LDS Church and other community volunteers and the faith-based community. And with Alan, there are a lot of communication elements, augmenting awareness of See-Click Fix, and certainly working behind the scenes to make sure that that deploys smoothly is a challenge for us and on the front burner. Happy to answer any questions you have.
I just have a comment on number 3. I just saw Supervisor Gutierrez's newsletter today, and they had a wonderful cleanup project day in Cabazon just last weekend, and they had a whole list of sponsors that helped them with that. So if you pass that along to Alan, maybe he can get in touch with Supervisor or Cabazon
Thank you very much.
and get details.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, final page on some of our clean initiatives. Want to make a few comments on a few of these on the Adopt a Street program. Haven't had too many new streets come forward yet. I think just maybe 1 or 2. Feel like there should be this should be a little easier for us to find volunteers. So we'll deploy some additional creative ideas, but I really want to hit this target, and we don't have a lot of time left to hit a few more streets within the next 2 months. So we may be a little behind schedule on that one, but that I felt like that one would be a little easier than it's actually turned out to be. I think one of our strategies will be working a little more closely with the chamber to see if some of our businesses can pick a street in front of their business and help us. On item 9, I mentioned earlier tonight that this is something that we're actively working on. This will be the next initiative that you see come forward, which is providing you the cost estimate and some options for enhanced sweeping. With that meeting that we had regarding the MPDES permit that's going to be coming forward relatively soon, we know that this is essentially something that's going to be recognized as contributing to our permit success and compliance. So this actually has other synergies with the NPDES permit. Additionally, the development of the 2-year facade and property improvement pilot program, that's one that we also want to see develop here relatively soon, because we know it will have an impact in our community. And help us attract and recruit new businesses to open. And item number 11, you set in motion at the last council meeting. We're going to issue a press release tomorrow and deploy on Monday is the plan to launch that. So we want to make sure that we work with the chamber to get the word out on the street.
Can you explain number 8 further?
Maybe help me with that one.
Certainly. So I think this perhaps goes to the first comment the mayor had at the beginning of the meeting, which was, are there more proactive code enforcement activities taking place? So one of the things our office has done is we now have a code enforcement attorney on site with code enforcement once a week, doing office hours there. I've informed the council of a couple of the proactive attempts at, getting nuisance abatement warrants going again, getting inspection warrants going again for problematic commercial properties throughout the city. So I think having that attorney on site, and I think that code enforcement office hours attorney is probably the precursor essentially to the city prosecutor program. And so I think that on the city attorney side, that's essentially increasing the just on-site access so that those types of programs can proceed forward more expeditiously. And then I think that code enforcement themselves are going out there. Code enforcement as a program is generally complaint driven a lot of the time. And so I think one of the things that code enforcement has been looking at doing is not just responding to complaints, but also going out there and proactively looking at problematic properties. And that's the other side of the coin.
And when I first arrived, I asked the question, how often are we out there actually looking for things? And it's, the presentation that you received at the last meeting indicates that most of our work, as the city attorney mentioned, is reactive. And there is a capacity issue here in terms of how much time we invest in the proactive nature. But our vision was to, as a metric, to essentially document whether we're successful or not, was to move the proactive work to 5 days a week, not from 2 days a week approximately to 5 days a week. So that's part of the effort here, is dedicating some time each day to going out and looking for challenges. Mayor, it looks like we have all the questions answered.
Okay, do we need a motion for this?
This is a receive and file. Receive and file.
Okay, this receive and file. All right, well, let's move on to city council and staff reports.
Okay.
Councilmember Krupa.
I'll start with the library. The library will be at the fire open house on Saturday, and they are also having story time with firefighters, which means the firefighters are doing the story time. Kathy will be backup, so that will be exciting. League of California Cities was announced today that Jesse Ramirez will be the new public relations person for Riverside County Division. He is taking the place of Aaron Sassy, who had been with us for many, 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 many years. And the next general meeting of the league will be in Eastvale on December 11th. RCTC is tomorrow. And there was something that Malcolm wanted me to say about RTA. What was that? You forgot to think about it. We talked about it in a meeting and it's gone. Anyway, Planning Commission meeting last week, 2 items on their agenda. Actually, both of them were lot splits. One in downtown, which was the Frontier property just south of City Hall. And the other was lot splitting in the Rancho Diamante development areas to assist in financing and getting builders in there. And that is all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Peterson.
I have a couple of WRCOG items. The staff of WRCOG developed a contract with Unix Traffic for the operation and maintenance of streetlights for a term of 3 years with an option of 2 additional years. And the city of Hemet participates in this program. And WRCOG is working with member agencies to integrate additional requirements. And I'll say that we were one of 4 cities that gave input to this. So thank you for that. And the city council will soon see this item on our agenda to approve this contract because we participate in this WRCOG program. And then another big item was the Hemet San Jacinto Transportation Uniform Mitigation Fee, known as TUMF. We met on September 13th, and at this meeting, Supervisor Chuck Washington, he advocated for the allocation of $20 million for the State Route 79 alignment. And it was approved unanimously, and it will provide an initial $10 million to RCTC for land acquisition and study. And this realignment will provide improved connectivity, economic growth, and quality of life for the communities it will serve. And we are hoping that this will make a big difference because we are landlocked here in our own little circle with everything around us. So if we get this alignment, the hope is that Coachella Valley to Temecula will get some of that business coming through. So we're pretty excited about this, and we hope this will go forward. And then I have this wonderful poster. Ramona Bowl is having Boo at the Bowl again this year, and it's going to be a wonderful event. It's going to be a 3-day event. We have a new coordinator, and it will be newer, exciting, and we're asking everybody to come out and support this. The tickets for admission are $6 in advance and $8 at the door. There is a car parking fee of $5 per car. They're also offering free tickets for candy. So if you have a bag of candy, I think it's 2 pounds we decided on, 2-pound candy, you'll get a free ticket. And there are certain sites, there's about 4 sites in town that you can drop off your candy and get these tickets. And there's a lot of information on the website. They'll give you more information. So they really are looking for more volunteers. And also on the Ramona Bowl website, there's a form there that you can contact them and you can volunteer, and it should be a great event. So wanted to promote that. Thank you.
What's on the bottom?
What? Oh, okay. You can have this one.
Oh, I can have it.
I've got extras. Yes, yes. I asked the city manager if he was going to promote the concert the night before, and he said I could do it, and I forgot. Linda reminded me. So the city is having a nice concert out there the night before Boo at the Bowl. It's on Thursday. We're going to have 2 different bands, and it's free to all citizens. So come out on Thursday and enjoy a great night with 2 really good bands.
When was that again? Thursday. Councilmember Kendricks?
Kendrick. So the mayor and I attended the Eastern Municipal Water District State of the District on September 27th. The Water District has a lot of exciting things going on. So that was a very interesting breakfast. And then the mayor and Supervisor Gutierrez and I got to take photos with Patrick the Pooh, their award-winning mascot. So that was kind of fun. Patrick the Pooh. September 29th, I did my nighttime PD ride along with Nolan Solorzano. We call him Solo. And that was very interesting, a lot different from a daytime ride. And we did run into Orlando's and Polito quite a bit. So I just want to thank them for kind of showing me around and showing me a different side. And then the next day on September 30th, I did my 12-hour fire ride along. We did a public education event at the American Legion for their poker run. So that was a lot of fun. And I wanted to thank Greg Lloyd, Dave Prieto, Zach Petit, Rick Seward, Robert Ewing, and Nathan Montez for just really kind of being very welcoming. And I have a new appreciation for getting in and out of a fire truck. I definitely was sore after that. And on October 2nd, I went to my first RCA meeting, which I was told I was put at the bad kids table, Mayor.
At what?
I was put at the bad kids table.
Kids.
Oh, the bad kids.
Bad kids table. It's me and Corona and Colleen. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
so
Why?
I don't know, but I'm actually going to steal this from my mayor. He does this every month, and he's on the RCA board as well. But he does the species highlights. So I do love conservation, and so the species spotlight is on the Mysterious Halls Monderella. And just a little bit about it. It is a rare plant species endemic to Western Riverside County, found on dry slopes and ridges in upland forests, woodlands, and grasslands. Most information known as by scientific species studies. And it belongs to the mint family, and they're known for their fragrance. And then the animal is the long-tailed weasel. It's very cute. I'm a big fan of the burrowing owl, but this guy's pretty cute. And so it's the bio on the long-tailed weasel says, "Don't let the cute face fool you. The long-tailed weasel is feisty and fierce, feeding mainly on voles, mice, rats, gophers, and squirrels, and fearless in attacking prey many times its size." So like I said, I'm stealing this from Mayor Julio Martinez, and that's all I have to report tonight.
So at the SCAG meeting, SCAG talked about future communities, two initiatives, Future Communities Pilot Program and Sustainable Communities Program. The first one, Future Communities Pilot Program, supports city and county agencies in their efforts to implement innovative pilot projects. The focus was to reduce vehicle miles traveled and greenhouse gas emissions by leveraging, they call it, new technologies and enhanced data analytics. And so the achievements were, they demonstrated significant reductions in VMT and GHG emissions with initiatives like eliminating trips to City Hall, saving gasoline, and reducing GHG emissions. The Sustainable Communities Program, the purpose was to award funding for projects that align with smart city and mobility innovation goals. And the total funding was $2.5 million, with the program concluding on June 30th. The projects included cities like Rialto, digital curb management in Los Angeles, and curb space management study in Long Beach, among others. And one highlight was San Bernardino County's remote electronic warrants program. The objective was to develop a user-centric software program that facilitated officers and judges to remotely submit, review, sign, and store warrants. And this reduced the need to physically travel to obtain court approvals. And then the background was, before the implementation of that online warrant submission, sheriffs and other law enforcement had to travel long distances to county courthouses. And given that San Bernardino is geographically like the largest county in the US and California, the potential for VMT savings was significant. So for example, the program initially estimated 150 reduced vehicle miles traveled. However, it's surpassed by removing 250,000, which doubled their anticipated VMT year. And then the system eliminated over 35,000 trips to courthouses within the county, leading to significant time and cost savings. And I only hope that we as a city could, implement a permit program or something where people don't have to come to City Hall, but they can do everything from home on a laptop. Community Action Partnership is in 2 days or next week.
The skate park, it will be complete hopefully on November 18th. We'll have a grand opening, ribbon cutting, get the kids out there. I want to thank the police and the firefighters for being out at the American Legion rally. They were out there in force. They had Council Member Kendrick there, which surprised me, but that was great. It was good turnout. Things went really smooth. Also, the American Legion has an Eagle Ronstadt Experience concert and dinner with tri-tip or chicken wrestling on this Saturday from 5 to 9. Last year it turned out really well. This year it should turn out just as good. And I'm gonna pass it over to our city manager for his report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just tonight, I want to plug one of the items on our website, which is our, this continues to make noise here. Sorry about that. Our city update, which is a bi-weekly update, we post these on the website. It's very easy for the community to find the city update. It's a single click from the city's website, which is hemetca.gov. And the third button over says City Update. When you click on that, we have a list, an inventory of all of our updates. We last published on October 7th, just a couple of days ago. And we invite the community to join our mailing list. We'd really like to grow this. We encourage everyone to share it. When you click on that link, there's also an opportunity to add your email address to begin receiving this. And I think the mayor was maybe just a little too shy to talk to you about the fact that on October 14th, the city features a Veterans of American Legion Post 53 event. So we do encourage community events. If you have a community event, we want to know about that. We want to add that to our newsletter. For this event that I mentioned, it's Saturday, October 14th from 5 to 9 p.m. Tickets are only $60 per person, goes to a great cause.
Includes a meal, one drink.
There's a QR code on here. There's information about Chalktober on October 28th from 12 to 5. We know Trunk or Treat follows that. And our fire department, as was mentioned earlier, has an open house on the 14th, Saturday, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. downtown at 220 North Juanita Street. So that's our update for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned to the next city council meeting on October 24th, 2023. And thank you for joining us tonight.